Okay, let's go.
Hey everybody, how are you? Nah, I can introduce myself, it's all good. So my talk today is going to be about pet well-being in our industry. So I apologize, it is not personal. Some people might be, that's not the way I do things, and that's okay. This is really a very broad topic that covers anything to do with pets. So I'm not picking on any particular industry, just so you can say that up front. All right, so my name is Karen Baxter. I am the owner and founder of Unified Canine Behavior Center in Newmarket, Ontario. I like to put up credentials just so people know that I'm not a hobbyist. I definitely am a professional. I spent a lot of years studying and learning about dog behavior and dog psychology and dog training, and I've been working at this for quite a long time. I have a team of 5 other trainers. This is Ed over here at the side. He's one of my trainers. And one of the things we care about deeply at Unified Canine is the impact we have on the dogs and the people that come through our door. So we don't just care about dogs, we care about all animals. We also have done work with the Ontario SPCA and worked with cats and dogs and all kinds of animals. So animal welfare in general is a biggie for us. So a little bit about what I'm going to talk about. So I'm going to start off by taking us on a little walk through the paws of a couple of animals and what their journey is like when they're having the experience with some of the services that we provide. And it's, like I said, it's not, I'm going to go worst case scenario just to set the stage. Not all pets have this experience, but just to give you an idea of what we're talking about. And then we're going to talk about what does well-being mean, just so that we're all on the same page about what this topic really entails. And then what kind of pressures are in our industries that override the well-being of the animals, because that does happen quite a bit. And it's not really the fault of the individual people that are doing the work. Nobody does this because they want to do something that's going to traumatize an animal, right? That's not why we get into this business. So I'm going to focus on daycares, grooming, pet sitting and dog walking, and training being my own. So I'm very well versed in the training side. Then we'll go through an ethical decision-making model and framework on how can we help animals and improve well-being of the animals that are in our care. And then how do we have this branched out and build a culture of this so that in the entire industry we are promoting animal well-being, right? And how can we work together as professionals? So, and then I'll leave you with a call to action. I want everybody to walk away today with an idea of how they can help take this message and go out there and promote it. So let's talk our pet's perspective first. So I'm going to take you on a little journey. You are a puppy. That's the first, you're a brand new puppy, 12 weeks old. Let's say you're a mini golden doodle. So we know that you're going to need some grooming because grooming is going to be your life for sure, right? So you walk into a grooming salon for the very first time. You have no idea where you are. You have never been there before. You don't know who these people are. You have no idea what that loud sound coming from that dryer in the corner is, or the clinking of the instruments on the table. You have no idea what those weird, strong smells are, why those dogs are barking in the crate. You have no clue whatsoever. So you look for your person who you trust, who's going to look after you, and they're suddenly not there. They just dropped you off and left. So now you're with these strange people, and they just ceremoniously picked you up and they plunked you on a table. And worse, they stuck this loop around your neck and put their hands on you so you can't move. So of course, what do? Well, you freak out, you panic, you struggle. You start to have a really hard time dealing with all of this stress, right? And you hear somebody say, well, that one's gonna be a difficult one. But really, you're not being difficult, you're terrified. That's really what's going on. That happens to a lot of pets. Right? Not everybody here a groomer, because I'm not picking on the groomers. But it does happen. There are some really great groomers out there who really take time with puppies and help them acclimate to the grooming environment. But there's still a lot of grooming out there with the pressures that the groomers are under. They don't have the time to do that, right? So you're the groomer. That groomer could be the sweetest, nicest person on the planet. They could have all the intentions in the world when they got into the industry. I just love working with dogs and I really want to do a good job. But they've got 5 more other clients coming in that day. And they've got a client who's going to be in the door in 5 minutes. And their boss is yelling at them to go faster because we need to get more dogs through the door and crank them out. And all of those pressures and time constraints, that system is what is forcing that groomer to not have to pay attention to that puppy's stress because they just don't have time for it. They just have to do their job, right? Now let's say I'm a cat. I'm in my house, my territory. I rule because I'm a cat. Some stranger comes into my door. I'm sure this happens to Morag staff all the time. Some stranger comes in the door. I don't know who that person is. I don't know why they're in my territory. What are they doing here? I don't have a clue why they're there. Maybe they're a threat. So my heart starts racing and I flatten and I do what a cat would do to survive. I hide. Now that poor person who's come in to look after me, they're under a tremendous amount of stress themselves. They got stuck in traffic. They've got 6 other visits they have to do. Oh my gosh, they have to get a picture with the cat because they have to send it to the cat's pet parent to show them that they're okay. They gotta make sure the cat eats. We're supposed to be bonding with the cat. So they try to reach out for the cat. They try to touch them. They try to coax them to come out, right? And that cat is like, who the heck is that stranger who's got me cornered now? So there is pressure on both sides. It's not just the cat, but it's not just the person. But the person who's doing the cat sitting, they're just trying to do their job. They're not doing anything intentional to hurt the cat. But because of the pressures in the system, that person cannot look after the well-being of that cat's emotions. They just need to get their job done. So what happens when we do this to animals? You have to think about it. This system that we have in place for right now, the animal's nervous system gets overloaded. They cannot handle the stress and the pressure that they're under. So in that moment, they go into survival mode. Their brain takes the emotions and the memories and fragments them and doesn't know how to deal with it. So that memory then becomes a pattern, and then that pattern becomes trauma. So in that moment, we've traumatized an animal unintentionally. Nobody intends to traumatize them, but that's what happens. We traumatize them. So for most of us in this industry, we don't want to do that, but the reality is that generally speaking, the system that we are working in, often we don't have a choice. We're under so much pressure, and the animals their well-being is always what ends up paying the price at the end. So let's talk about what behavior means so we can make sure that we are all on the same page. So behavior is observable actions. It's the things that animals do. So it's how they interact with their environment. It's how they interact with the other people and the animals and everything in their environment. The reason that they do the things that they do, so it's because of instinct. It's because of their learning. It's because they need to get water. They need to get food. They need to reproduce. They need to have shelter. There's a lot of reasons why they do the things they do. There's social requirements. Most of them have social requirements as well, right? So really the key is that behavior is functional. The reason animals do the things they do, there's always a reason. They don't just do it for no reason. It's never to upset us, never because they're mad at us. It's literally because they're trying to do something. That is the function of behavior. So now let's take it to the next level. What does well-being mean? It's not just physical well-being. It's not just, did they get a walk today, right? But it's their emotional well-being, their cognitive, their memory, working brains. It's making sure that all of their social needs have been met, right? It means providing predictability. Animals love knowing what to expect. Think about you. You're an animal. You like to know what to expect, right? We don't like it when we suddenly don't know what's happening. It makes us insecure, right? Well, animals are the same way, right? We like to have the option to consent to things that are going to happen. We want the opportunity to do things that are instinctually the behaviors that we as animals need to be able to do. That's what agency is. And we need to be able to rest when we're tired. The environments that we're in, they need to be supportive so that we can learn, right? So the dogs, the cats, birds, all the animals we're working with, we need to make sure they have that ability, they have that supportive environment, right? And we want to make sure that they are learning and that we don't want to be suppressing behavior, right? And of course, then there's the other flip side of this, which is the professionals, all of you guys, right? Your well-being also matters. Your safety, your emotional well-being, making sure that you have the opportunities to do the jobs you want to do in a way you want to do it also matters, right? So when we're looking at well-being, you count, right? So stress on staff that are unsupported means that the staff are not able to deliver good, healthy, well-being care to the animals, because you are going to miss signals. We'll talk about that in a little bit too, but it becomes dangerous for the staff and becomes unhealthy for the animals. How many of you have heard about the 5 freedoms? Hands up. Yep, there's a few. Very good. The 5 freedoms for animals was something that came out of a committee in the UK in the 1960s after there were a lot of complaints about animal welfare. And so these 5 freedoms, which include freedom from hunger and thirst, so they should be able to have proper nutrition, they should have access to good, clean water, anything that is part of their nutritional diet they should have access to. They should be free from discomfort, so that means having a good space to live, a place to rest that's comfortable, the temperature's right for them, freedom from pain, injury, or disease. So if they need vet care, having access to vet care, doing the things, making sure we're not doing things that are going to intentionally harm them physically. Freedom to express normal behavior, so that's what agency is. So they have the opportunity to express natural behaviors that they would as an animal, right? And then of course, freedom from fear and distress. So they should be free, they should have conditions that are free from mental distress. So this applies to any captive animal. So that's zoo animals, pets, farm animals, but it strictly is the animals that are in humans' care. That's what this applies to. So in our industry, if you look at these, there's oftentimes, I'm going to talk about dog training first, where sometimes these 5 freedoms are not taken care of the way they should be. We sometimes will do something to an animal that causes them to be afraid, right? Now, I say we try really hard not to, but there's a lot of different training techniques out there, and sometimes because the clients want us to make sure something happens quickly, right, we try to push it a little bit, and then we've actually did more harm than good for that animal. All right. Good. So now, why should we care about this as an industry? Generally speaking, the animals are okay. We're doing the thing that they need. They're getting fed, or they're getting out, or they're getting training, right? But what are the consequences if we don't actually care about their emotional well-being? Well, we can have in animals that stress levels increase and their anxiety levels increase. They can become very difficult to handle. When we're talking about any animal, somebody was telling me they were working with a parrot and the parrot bit them. Was it you? Yeah. Parrots are predators, and if they don't know you, you're a threat to them. Right? And dogs, we usually go to the dogs because dogs are the bigger animals that can really inflict a lot of damage when we're talking about that, but they're difficult to handle. There is definitely risk, right, involved in that. So they can become defensive or even aggressive for sure, right? There can be long-term behavior challenges as a result of the care we did. So if I have a dog today and I've done something to that dog that made that dog uncomfortable, that stress stays with that dog long after they've left me, right? Or if you've gone in to see a cat and the cat got stressed and you're gone, those stress hormones are in their system. They are still elevated after you've left. It's not just the moment that you're there. So the long-term implications of us doing something to an animal that really causes them some trauma or distress can impact them down the road. So even as much as over time in particular, if I use grooming again, right, if they go to a groomer who continually does not pay attention to that animal's welfare, and then down the road, somebody goes to brush the dog at home and the dog snaps at them, and the person will say, it came out of nowhere. It did not come out of nowhere. It has been building up over time. So when we understand that this is going on and the impact, right, then we know that it's really important that we improve the welfare and the well-being of the animals in our care, and it helps with our relationship with those animals. If we are listening to them and we're paying attention to how they're feeling, and we take the time that we need to help them feel comfortable when we're working with them, the trust will come back to us. They will be better with us, and they will be better off in the long term. We need to avoid all the conflicts. So if we avoid conflict with the animals, then they are not continually practicing having conflict with humans, which means that their long-term health and well-being is going to improve, right? And then, of course, the bright side of that for you, of course, is there's less risk to injury to the people who are working with the animals, because the animals are going to learn to trust people better. So what happens when pressure overrides well-being? So these are some of the standard things that happen and it is pervasive across the entire pet care industry, whether it's veterinary care or it's breeding or it's dog walking, dog training, cat care. It doesn't matter what industry it is, right? First things first is there's a lot of time pressures in this, especially in our current environment. And often there's a lot of overbooking. So when we get into daycare is a really good example of that. And it's the pressure that you have to continually take people's dogs in. The pet parents' expectations are a huge one. Anybody feel the pressure of that? Whoa, me a lot. Right? I just want my dog to stop jumping. I just want them to stop jumping, right? So can you make them stop jumping right now? My favorite is when it's a 12-week-old puppy, and can you please stop them from nipping? Then you have the pressure from, if you work for somebody in particular, pressure from your boss, right? So there you get your performance metrics, right, Lori, right? Tons of pressure from your boss. Oh my, she's just like, get at it, Lori. Get all this work done right now, right? We want it faster. We want to make the most money we possibly can, right? And we want you to do as many as you can in that time that you're working, right? And then there is a lot of financial pressure. We all need to make money. We all need it to survive. Our food costs are gone up. All of our expenses are higher. Everybody needs to make money. And there is a discount mentality in our industry, so people do not always value the things that we do from a financial perspective, so you'll get a lot of pushback from people to try and keep your costs down. They don't want to pay you as much. So that is also very challenging for us. And then lastly, there's our cultural myths about well-being. We see it all the time, of course, in the dog world about the dominance theory, right? So, well, you just have to be alpha. And you show us how to be alpha? No, we cannot show you, right? And a tired dog is a good dog. We hear that one. I'm sure you've heard that. If anybody here is from daycare or boarding, right? You know, well, my dog wasn't tired enough. I've heard that before, right? And it's like, well, it's actually a good thing if your dog's not exhausted at the end of the day. That means they got enough rest in the meantime. So, because dogs actually need an average of 15 hours of sleep a day, just as an example. And it's like, when they're going to daycare from 7 till 7, I don't think they're getting that 15 hours. It's just too challenging to do that, right? But the expectation from the clients is, I want that dog going until they can't go any further, right? Not good for the dog, really, but, right? And then, yes, of course, there's the quick fixes, right? I just want that problem fixed right now. And that is definitely partly cultural in our industry, not just our industry, it's pervasive, where everybody wants that instant gratification. They want everything right now. Nobody has any patience. And then what happens to the animals, of course, is their well-being is affected by all of that. So let's talk a little bit about compassion fatigue. Does everybody know what compassion fatigue is? Good, right? So, of course, when the more we're working and our ethics and our thoughts and care for the animals is put under a ton of pressure, and we often then are forced into a conflicting role where we have to not always take their well-being to the level we would like over time, that's exhausting. That's when you start having to cope with compassion fatigue, and you'll then have to start compartmentalizing your feelings, right? So when that happens, what is the ramifications? Well, we have the reduced ability to read animals' behavior because we're no longer really checked in. We're not really paying attention to what's going on with those animals. And so we miss cues, right? We have less tolerance for subtle behaviors. So little things that before you would have been like, oh, that's nothing, that's no biggie. Now we're short with them and we don't have as much patience, so we're angry, right? We have increased likelihood of being reactive to those behaviors. So we yell at them, we'll do things like just jerk on a leash if it's a dog, or I had a bunny attack me once. I like to tell the story about getting attacked by a bunny because I didn't know anything about bunnies, and somebody sent me over to go take care of a bunny, and he was territorial, and he was like, who are you? You're a stranger. And so the bunny came out and he attacked me. So now it was my first time. I didn't have compassion fatigue for this bunny, but if I did, that might be in a time where I've seen people do things like smack the cage because they're annoyed and they just don't have time and they just need to get that bunny fed, right? Like I said, he's not the only bunny I've seen do that. It was the first one for me, and I was a little surprised. There's an increased likelihood that the animal's behavior will escalate because you're stressed, you're tense, you don't have time, you're rushing, you're not paying attention to their cues, and when you don't pay attention to their cues, what are they gonna do? Well, they're gonna have to escalate to the next level because you're not paying attention. Now, that can result in a bunny attacking you, like me, right? A parrot biting you, right? Or a cat scratching you, or a dog biting you, right? It can result in something really severely bad happening to the worker, right? So that's what we want to avoid, as well as protecting that animal's stress levels and making sure they're not having a bad experience. But compassion fatigue is real, and I get it. It's up to us who run businesses and us who are individuals to be aware that the pressures we put on people can cause compassion fatigue, and compassion fatigue has risks to the animals and the workers. Up to us who run businesses and us who are individuals to be aware that the pressures we put on people can cause compassion fatigue, and compassion fatigue has risks to the animals and the workers. Let's look at doggy daycares as a good example. Start with them first. So some of the pressures in a daycare, high dog to staff ratios. This is the number one that I hear about on a regular basis. Anybody here work in a daycare? What's your dog to staff ratio right now? Right, what's the industry standard? Right, that's exactly right. Bingo, right.
I hate all of the negatives.
Right, yes. So it's not 5 strange dogs remixed every time. But I think about the ones that are today because it's bad weather and all of a sudden everybody wants their dog into the daycare because dogs have got all this energy and the weather's lousy, and now you've got your phones ringing off the hook, and so you're under that pressure to take those dogs from those clients, right? Exactly, and I know, but it's not right now.
It should be.
It should be. 100% agree with you, and that's really the message, right? Is like we really, as an industry, we should be all putting this in place, because if we are, then it becomes the standard, and as soon as that level of well-being becomes the standard, everybody's going to do okay. The staff will be better, the people will make money who are running the businesses, and the dogs will be better, right? They will have a better time, right? So client expectations, that's what we were talking about earlier. You know, well, you can just squeeze my dog in there, I just need them to get in there, right? Or I need my dog to be tired. My dog's going to drive me crazy at home. I need you to make them tired. And then there is also the pressure of taking dogs that are not actually suitable for a daycare, right? This is where Moraig's crew need to be called in, because that dog, not all dogs like that level of sociability. They don't want to be in there with all those dogs, and it's a lot of pressure. Even Moraig has a little dog who he would be completely stressed in that environment. He doesn't like big dogs. They make him nervous, right? And that being in a group like that, that would be a nightmare for your dog. He would be a total nightmare. He could not handle that, right? He comes to me. So the risks when we disregard these pressures for the animals and on our staff, for sure, right? But for the animals in particular, over-arousal and chronic stress, which can then, like I said before, that can branch out into other areas of that dog's life. The groups are not safe, right? So you have a risk of fights breaking out, dogs getting injured, right? Which can affect your reputation as a business, because when people hear about that, all of a sudden you're the daycare that had a dog fight, and people don't understand that when you got a group of dogs, that can happen at any time, right? But they'll just hear that yours had a dog fight. Yep, that's all it takes is 2, that's right. And then of course, lack of rest, because I don't know about you guys, but if I have a lack of rest over time I get grumpy, right? So there's less tolerance from the dogs. They can't cope as well, right? Because they're tired, right? So some of the solutions I was saying, if we have behavior-based intakes where we're really strict about, is this the right environment for this dog? And also, not all daycares are created equal, right? So you have a lot of outdoor space at your daycare, right? Not all daycares do. If they're in town, in the city of Newmarket, we have no rules, right? So there's no regulations. So you can have a 1,200 square foot facility and have 20 dogs in it. Yes. Right.
Unit, 3 rooms, 33 per room.
Oh my Lord, but I can see it. Yes, that's right. We do have one in Newmarket like that. This is what you do. It is definitely something that the message gets out there. So if we as an industry say that's not acceptable, we need to do smaller sizes. We need to make sure that the dogs that are grouped together are appropriate, because not all dogs play the same way. They don't all interact the same way, right? Different groups have different play styles, right? If we're really aware of that and paying attention to that, we can make sure the right dogs are with the right dogs. So that's like, I have a small, just 3 days a week, we do a day training program. That's what Morag's dog comes to. And so he's separated from the big dogs because that's not his jam. He does not like that, right? So he really likes the people. So he spends most of the time with the people. And staff has to be trained. So that to me is a biggie, especially when you're working with dogs. Dogs are predators. They've got teeth, right? Staff needs to be trained. And there are, sadly, daycares out there that people go in there to work. They get hired for minimum wage. It's a minimum wage job. I get it, right? But they don't have any dog experience. Zero. They don't know anything about dogs. And the training they get is just on what to do inside the daycare, not really about dog behavior, dog body language, what to watch for. Was that? Yes, that's it. That's it. But you don't even know what to look for. Then you're going to miss things and it's dangerous. Yes, that's right. Control. Don't run, no playing. You stop there. Yep. Whistle. Yeah, exactly. So if we train people on that and there's clear communication with our clients as well about what to expect, what the expectations are, and what's acceptable, what's not acceptable, what's not good for their dog, that might mean you have to say no to some dogs that have been coming for a little while. If all of a sudden, don't forget too, as they grow and change in their developmental phases, there could be a change in the dog's personality and behavior that can impact whether or not that daycare is now acceptable for that dog. Might have been great till it was 11 months old, and then at 11 months old it hits sexual maturation and no longer is it acceptable to be in that daycare because they've changed, right? And you have to be honest with the clients. I know it means that you'll lose that client, but there's a lot of dogs out there, so somebody will take that dog's place. So don't worry, if you have a good solid business with an excellent reputation, you will get clients. Yes, seeing your dogs gets too much for them. It's very true. Let's move on there. Grooming pressures. I don't need to tell you if you're in the grooming industry, I'm sure. But appointment windows, right? Having to do too many dogs in a day. A lot of dogs don't do well in the grooming salons where there's multiple groomers and dogs at the same time. So depending on the dog, it's good. Some dogs can handle it just fine. Some dogs cannot, right? So you really need to pay attention to how your clients' dogs are handling those scenarios, because if they are not suitable for your type of business, perhaps you need to refer them to somebody else where they're going to be able to handle that environment differently, right? There's the just get it done mentality from the clients, right? So you just got to get it done. Or your boss, because I need you to get more dogs done and get them out, right? So the breed standards and the way that you cut their hair to meet the breed standards can be difficult for some dogs. Some of those breeds require, what you say for you groomers out there, what dog takes the longest if you're doing a breed standard cut? Bichon, Fritz. Anybody else? Yeah. Anybody like, what does it take to poodle standards with all the poofy things? You don't even do it. That's it, right? I know there's people who do poodles, but that sometimes they have to stand there for a long time to get that cut, and that's really hard on the dog. Right? They don't get breaks, they need to go to the bathroom, they want to rest and they can't because they're standing on the table. It's hard on them, right? Yes, exactly. Right. So the risks, of course, of force is that we're forced to have to handle, we're forcing the dog, we're forcing them to comply, right? Which can cause stress and cause them to react, right? So we don't want that, right? Overuse of restraints. I'm going to tell you a story. 14-week-old puppy, Portuguese water dog, went to a groomer. He's wiggly, he's nippy. They threw a muzzle on the dog. I was just like, oh my goodness, I can't believe you just did that to that 14-week-old puppy. A muzzle on a dog who's not conditioned to a muzzle is like handcuffing them. It's very unfair, right? So, of course, we worked with the client after we heard that and said, we are going to show you how to muzzle condition, and you're going to work on muzzle conditioning right away, because this dog's going to need to go to grooming quite often, and we want to make sure if you continue to use that groomer, you need to make sure that dog is okay with a muzzle, because that is completely unfair to do that to that puppy, right? And of course, he's 14 weeks old. He had a bad experience now. So that's going to make his next grooming appointment even tougher, right? So we don't really want to do that. And then, of course, we ignore stress signals because we just got to get the job done, right? So solutions, you can educate clients about cooperative care and start working with those animals on cooperative care. Now, I know dogs don't generalize well. However, if they start working on it and you are open to it, then you can help that dog generalize it to your salon. So behavior-based pricing, because I realize that it takes time to give animals the time they need to acclimate to their environment. But if everybody was doing it, that would become the standard, right? So now you can tell clients, well, we need to take time with your dog. Or, you know what, today we're only going to let them rest with us for an hour and play with us, and then we're gonna just give them a little brushing, but we're not doing anything else. You'll have to come back next week to do more, so that the dog gets used to coming, right? So making sure you have those processes in place will really help the well-being of the dogs. Consent-based handling, so that's part of cooperative care as well. So if the dog's really struggling in that moment, then of course I'm gonna give them a break, right? I'm gonna let them have time. I'm gonna do something fun with them. I'm just not gonna push them through it. I don't wanna just keep pushing them through, right? And for the people in there who are owning and running the businesses, have stop work policies. Do you have stop work policies in yours? Yeah, right? So you give permission to the staff to say, we have to stop. This dog cannot handle this right now. This is as far as we can go for today. We will work on being able to accomplish that in the future, but for now, we need to stop. And then you just explain to the client, sorry, but for your animal's well-being, we cannot continue. Now, most people, they're going to care that you cared about their animal's well-being. So they'll take that well, right? Not everybody, I know that, but honestly, you don't want compassion fatigue. So, right? Yes, that's great. I love that. I don't know if anybody heard that. So what they do is dogs come in the morning, they stay all day. So there's no rush to get their grooming done. Like that. No. They have to have breaks. Nice, that's excellent. So those are the ways that you can, as groomers though, this is how and this is not an exhaustive list by any stretch. This is just high level, but these are some of the little tiny things we can do to help our animals' well-being. Pet sitting and dog walking. This is more eggs. So pressure, overloaded schedules. I have put pressure on them before. I know, right? I've called them at the last minute. Oh my gosh, I have an emergency. Can you get somebody to let these dogs out? And they always make it happen too, I have to say. The weather, right? It's a lot of pressure though, right? The weather. This winter has been just prime example. The weather, oh my gosh. I don't know how they do their jobs, seriously. It's such a difficult amount of pressure on a dog walker or on people who have to go to people's homes and pet sit if they have to get there in a snowstorm. That's crazy. Enrichment alternatives. Do you guys have an enrichment plan? Yeah, so if it's inclement weather outside, it's not healthy to take that animal out. Well, what are we gonna do with them instead? We'll still show up. The dog still needs to have something to do. You have an enrichment plan available for your staff so that they can help those animals still get something. Enrichment does not necessarily mean a walk around the block, right? It just means you doing something with their brain, giving them some attention, letting them out to go to the bathroom. That's all important, right? Exactly. And of course, transparent reporting. So making sure if there's any issues, the communication systems are in place to communicate properly to everybody involved, including the client. So, all right, let's move on. How am I doing time-wise? Oh, we're good. So this is my guys, training, right? There is definitely a lot of pressure to fix it now. We are humane-based trainers, so we try really hard not to do anything that's going to be classified as aversive, right? So we don't use prong collars and shock collars in our training, right? But there, we are the minority, right? So in our area, that is definitely the minority. Most of the trainers in our area are what they call the balanced trainers, which just means they use good training, but they also use prong collars and shock collars in their training, right? And so we are the minority, and therefore that is what our main problem is as far as getting clients is people want that instant fix of a problem, and those training methods give you the momentary instant fix. What people don't understand is it doesn't last, right? And then that's the part that it's just a lack of education. They just don't understand. Plus the fallout, because the animal's well-being can be definitely, if they're not a resilient animal, we've seen it where you've used a shock collar on an animal that shouldn't have happened to, and now they're an anxious mess. So they do not understand it's a tool that should be weaned off. That is for sure, right? So, and then of course, anybody else here a dog trainer besides us? Excellent. Well, you know what it's like on social media. It's terrible. It's, oh my gosh, the wars and politics, oh, horrible. And then people are afraid to ask a question or say anything because you're worried that somebody's going to attack you because you said what you're going to say. Oh my gosh, the social pressure is crazy on social media. So that also puts a lot of pressure on the trainer, which makes it harder for us then to do our jobs well, because that also affects us, right? So risks, of course, is we suppress behavior instead of change behavior. We really like to work on helping the animal change their emotional state. We don't really want to suppress the outward appearance of whatever's going on under the hood. So if we use quick fixes, that's all we're doing. We're just going to suppress behavior. We're not going to change anything about the way the animal feels about it. There's a chance of increased fear and aggression. Absolutely, 100%. If you break trust with an animal, they're going to escalate. So it is definitely a risk. And of course, you lose trust with the animal. And then if things don't go well, you're going to lose the trust of your client as well. Solutions, of course, evidence-based humane methods. That's what we promote at Unified Canine. You want clear boundaries communicated to your clients about what you're willing to do and what you're not willing to do. So our clients know if they walk in, first of all, we're not judgy. So if they walk in with a prong collar, we don't tell them they can't have it, because that's not up to us, it's up to them. Right? What we try to do is give them other alternatives so they don't have to use it, right? But it's not up to us to judge them, so we don't do that. But we won't go get one for them, or we won't tell them this is what we want you to do. We want to actually teach the dog how to walk with you is the ideal way, right? Behavior plans need to prioritize emotional safety. We do that. Our behavior plans start with safety and management first, right? And then we will slowly start working on the animal's emotional state. And then you have to set realistic timelines and tell people that behavior takes time to change. I always use people analogies because there's nothing that we do that's fast either, right? If we're changing our own behavior, it takes time. So this is an example. I put this up here. I really just want people to see. So down the one side, we've got types of pressure. So we get time pressure, client expectations, management pressure, financial pressure, cultural pressure, welfare consequences. And across the top are the 4 groups: daycare, grooming, pet sitting, training. Every one of us has the same pressures. It just maybe comes up in a different way, right? So doggy daycares, it's large groups for time pressure, but for trainers, it's the expectations of quick results. So I still have a time pressure, just different than the doggy daycare, right? So that's really why I put this up here, is just so you can see that we're all in the same boat when it comes to this pressure and the impact it has on the well-being of the animals. So a little framework for ethical choices during care. First step, of course, is to pause. So if you see something, you just need to stop for a minute, take a breath. Number 2 then is to assess what's going on. What's happening with that animal? Why are they? So I'm the puppy from the beginning and I'm freaking out on the table. Stop for a moment, give that puppy a moment. Maybe they just need time to get to know you a little bit first before you put them on the grooming table. So then, of course, I'm going to adjust what I do to accommodate that puppy, right? So that the puppy feels better about what's happening, right? Then I'm going to communicate to the staff around me, to my boss, to the client, what happened with the puppy and what did I do about it, so that they know the puppy was struggling a little bit and so we had to go a little slower, right? And then I'm going to document everything, because this way, when the puppy comes back in for grooming the next time, right, if I'm not there, somebody can read what is going on, what happened with that puppy, and it's not starting from scratch. How do I build this now into my business? How do I build this as a culture of well-being, right? Well, staff training. I'm going to keep saying that because I just feel like I know Morag does a lot of staff training, but I know other places that don't do any. So I really think staff need to be trained on body language, low stress handling, ethics, right? Impacts on well-being. Have SOPs that have well-being embedded right in your wording, right? So they know the animal has to come first, right? That's the most important thing. Examine your pricing. Make sure that it reflects the time you're going to need for behavior-based pricing. You want to have clear protocols. When should work stop? When is it okay for me to say, I need to stop, and then you're going to be supported because that was the standard operating procedure, so your boss is not going to get mad at you if you have to stop, right? And for anybody who owns the business, you are the leaders. You set the standard for your staff. So if you're living it and breathing it, everybody else will live and breathe it as well. So we are huge on professional collaboration, huge, right? No one sees the whole picture. The dog's going to behave with Morag's team different than it behaves with me, different than it behaves with the groomer, right? So making sure we are all collaborating and talking is one way to get it out and have it spread through the whole industry, right? So we just need to be empathetic to each other's struggles and help work together to create a much better environment for well-being, right? So we're going to support each other, support the animals, support our clients, send consistent messaging home, right, to the pet parents, right? Making sure we're educating them and making sure that we're all singing the same song. So in my framework, shared language concerning stress, that's helpful. That comes with education as well, right? What are thresholds? What does consent mean? Those types of things. Having mutual referral pathways between trainers, groomers, daycares, walkers, sitters. So for example, at Unified Canine, collaboration has been a huge part of our culture. So we collaborate with Morag, so we send a lot of people. We recommend they go to Morag for dog walking or pet sitting. We know a couple of daycare people that we will, if people are looking for daycare, because we know them and we know what they're like, we'll send dogs there. Groomers, we're picky about the groomers we send people to as well, so we have collaboration. We have 15 vets on our list that we collaborate with, so that we know who we can send to for what. But it takes time to build that, so you just really have to invest in it, but it's worth it because you all work together. Nobody is going to do every single dog. So we even have other trainers in our collaboration circle, right, that we work with, collaborate on things. I'll send people to them, they send people to me, because there's too many dogs for us to do all by ourselves. We need to share, right? So we keep clear notes when we have behavior cases, so that if I need to say, hey, Morag, you've got this dog, but here's the issues that are going on, and I think they can benefit from your service, and it really helps because the clients often will not be able to communicate it accurately, but since we all know, because we're in the industry, that works, right? And then encourage the clients to be educated. So for anybody who's in daycare or grooming, all right, align yourselves with really good ethical trainers, that if people are struggling, you can refer them to the trainers, right? And make sure that you have that open line of communication so that you can discuss an animal's care with anybody who's in that line. So benefits, of course, reduce pressure on all of us, right? Early identification of stress or risk, right? And we reduce the risk to the staff safety because we do care about the people. And ultimately, the animal's going to benefit. Doesn't matter. So here's our call to action. I challenge everybody to review your current procedures and processes. What are you doing today? Is there anything in there that needs to be tweaked that can improve the well-being of the animals? Communicate your well-being centered intention to your staff and your clients. It's really the clients we need to get the message out to because they are the ones who need to understand it, right? And then reach out to other animal care professionals in your area and build your network. That is because that's going to take some time as well. So that's my call to action for everybody. And in summary, animal well-being is not optional. Really, it isn't. We really need to care about their well-being. Professionals need to feel empowered. They need to have that ability to pay attention, take care, and do what they need to do to protect the animals. And collaboration is the only way we're going to get this out to everyone. So we are responsible for those animals in our care. Well-being is non-negotiable. Thank you. Boom. Mic drop.